Hey the Rulers, DMO73 here. We are back with another feature match for you this week, featuring myself on Red Aristella 2.0 using Little Red and the Moon package. Super excited for that. And I'm playing against David Kuras and his updated Falchion control list. With that out of the way, let's jump right in.
This session brought to you by Odyssey Games for pre-orders and sealed product, TCG Prime for tons of singles and supplies, Cardo Doko for international rulers looking for products, and fowtlibrary.com for articles and wonderful deck lists,
As well as our guest lecturer members King Pearlshine, Vite Ramen, Mognite, and Darren Noblock.
Class is in session.
Okay, so as we get started here, Rulers, just a reminder that Odyssey Games does already have pre-orders up for Clash of the Star Trees. You can check it out in the link in the description below. Also, don't forget, this Friday is our June Discord exhibition tournament. You can sign up for that in the description below as well. Hope to see you there. So, we have Aristella on the right. That is the new Aristella using the extension ruler card with the Little Red from Grim Cluster, playing against David Kuras in his Falchion control list. I think David's list is playing more like the addition versatility package as opposed to like the heavy Brad package that we've seen, so we'll have to see exactly how that pairs up here, or maybe if I'm just missing it and there are a lot of Brads in that deck. I don't remember in watching this that it feels like it was more the utility edition control as opposed to the heavy Brad package, so we'll see what happens. Beginning of game trigger, we got our walls out here, at least for David. I do not get one of those because I'm Aristella 2. We don't have homeland trigger. That is okay. We're moving in. Good to see the 4C there, and then we're going to pass the turn. Now, a lot of people are seeing the red Aristella as like a kind of aggro deck to really rush down, but one thing that's important to note is the fact that it does not have to do that. It definitely has ways to be built that allow it to be able to shift to a more mid-range grind as needed based on kind of how it gets paired up or what it gets matched up against, which is important here, especially with the wall and kind of playing into like Darkness Moonchild, Light Moonchild, kind of those kinds of flexibilities here with the Falchion deck. Gonna see a pass turn from David. Down comes a Killua to go ahead and just pop the wall. Let's say like, oh, okay, wall's going to be a problem for me. Let's just go ahead and kind of incidentally throw this out at the end of the turn to get it in there. Get rid of it. Next up, we have Immortal Little Moon. Nice little, just going to pop him for 6 here. Start that burn damage in here, as well as being able to, we could do Judgment this turn with Little Red. However, we're not going to because we have no way to protect it. And we don't want to just have it immediately die to the Darkness Moonchild God's Art. Calling second stone for David. Do see a Spirit Ring come down here, a very tool that we have seen Falchion make use of quite a lot recently, especially to be able to use things like Fiola, just produce extra will to be able to play Fiola and cancel some stuff. He is going to try to use its enter ability to target my Moon. In response, we're going to go ahead and flash in that Dark Alice. Say, like, look, if we're going to lose it, let's go ahead and banish it to a different thing and get some extra value off of it, rather than having to discard. And we do discard the Red Wolf as well. David saying pass at that point, which we're like, okay, sounds good to me. Light Palace coming down here, starting our Moon situation. We have a little bit more will now, so we might see a flip of the Little Red. The problem is, though, her enter effect mandates that we target a Resonator, which means that it would have to kill our Dark Alice, which we're not really wanting that to happen quite yet. So we'll go ahead and just swing in for 2 and pass the turn. Third stone, come down here. We have Amadeus the Holy Crystal. Daily Research comes down. Gonna go ahead and grab Road to the Sacred Queen. Nice way to stop the aggressor deck, although I will say the deck has quite a lot of quick cast or kind of immediate reanimation stuff, so that can be a little bit tricky gives the deck some ways to be able to play through Road to the Sacred Queen. especially with a lot of the tools like Godly Aura and things like that, and the Wolf being able to come back whenever, like here, you see we use a Godly Aura to try to make a moon here before recovery, which will then Fire Moon token, which will then bring the Wolf back, and sure, it comes into play tapped, but then it immediately recovers, and it's got swiftness, so it doesn't really matter. We're okay with this. And this is all before recovery as well. This is kind of the, we see a Garion pitched to try to stop it. We're like, okay, well, that's fine. And then let's go ahead and just, we'll do it again, I guess, at that point in time. This is one of the things where you see, this is kind of the phase where you can get under these control decks, is kind of like make them burn out their resources and then move to your recovery to when you do what you actually want to do, which is totally fine. We are going to go ahead and see a Feasting come down here to try to stop the second Godly Aura, and we're like, well, we can't pay for it, so yeah, sure, you stopped it. But this is okay for us because we've burned out his cards and we can go into our turn ready to make some big moves. I mean, if we had... at this point in time, there'd be a world where, like, if we have Contract, we can pretty safely slam it and do some pretty aggressive damage. But, you know, I don't think we have it at this point in time in the hand. So we'll have to see exactly what we can do to follow it up here. Or if we've just successfully burned some cards out of his hand. Down comes the Glorious Little Moon to be able to, that'll trigger the Wolf to come back into play tapped. We do get to try to then enter effect, discard a bunch of cards from our hand to try to pump up. At least the Dark Alice can swing in this turn and kind of refresh into some better cards. You do see that we do have another Wolf coming in there, so that'll start making all of our, like, you know, Godly Auras suddenly making 2 bodies, all kinds of good stuff. Dark Alice is going to swing in for 8. He says, I will take that 800 damage, go down to 24. We're going to go ahead in that point in Judgment. Little Red, the Wolf Girl, which will shoot the Feasting out of the way. It's currently sitting at being a 18-8. So we're going to try to swing, knowing full well that it's just going to get popped with a Chariot of the Darkness Moon, but that is okay. We expect that. That is why in this deck we are playing copies of Lars to be able to heal it. You'll see that later on if we can find one. A way to heal an Astral Ruler so we can make use of it again. Little Red Riding Hood is pretty much always going to take the shot of the Child of the Darkest Moon simply because it's so much damage. I mean, David does not want to be at 600 life right now, especially staring down the fact that, you know, we have the 6/6 base Wolf and all kinds of other stuff that are going to start coming into play and really start kind of chewing it through his life total pretty quickly if he doesn't answer it smartly. See a Call Stone. This is a card that will certainly be helpful. Fountain of the Illusionary Flower of Sorrow to be able to tap down and keep tap down stuff. We are going to try to target the Wolf to bounce back to my hand. Here you go. Sure, that makes a lot of sense. That's fine. When he passes turn, we're going to use another filtering, I think, using Child of Light Moon to pop the Illusory Flower of Sorrow, just to say, like, hey, we don't want to have to deal with that. That is a problem. It is going to be causing a lot of issues here. And we're going to... Looks like we might be trying to do something again during his end phase here. Down comes Godly Aura number 3. This will make us a token, and it'll get us a Wolf back. We do get to draw a card to replace it. Grabbing the Wolf, which comes into play tapped, but that's okay. We're moving into our turn, and that Wolf is now sitting at an 8/8. So again, we're drawing for turn. We had a full grip of cards here, and we're still threatening 10 damage before we even call Stone. And because David only has 2,400 life, like, that's gonna chew through pretty quickly, especially if we can get more moons down the line. You do not need to hit 9 moons for Wolf to be a big threat. It's just automatically gonna be coming in and swinging in for 800, and seeing if we can get him down to 18. So you've got a Fiola, a Neverend, a couple of attack orders, a Persephone. Doesn't really do a whole lot. I mean, the problem with attack order here is if he kills it and then we hit another Dark Alice, like when it gets killed, if we hit a Fire Moon off the top, it gets cheated into the field. Or if we hit a Moon Edition, it gets cheated into the field, which then if it's a Fire Moon Edition can get the Wolf right back. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that happens there. Dark Alice Rabbit Princess is coming in. Gonna sack the wolf before it dies and draw, and then sack the Dark Alice as well. We're gonna reveal that top card, see if we hit a Moon Edition off of it. We did hit a Moon. I think I just didn't realize that it's any Moon Edition, I believe, that gets to come in. Yeah, it gets put into the field. So I just completely missed that. I was thinking Fire Moon and just did not successfully put that edition into the field, which would have been helpful because it draws another card and we can dig a little deeper. Ultimately, though, just casting another Lone Wolf, knowing that it's going to come into play tapped. But still then after that, if David does decide to kill it, it might get us another Moon. It might get us another Fire Moon. Do hit 5 stones for David. Witch of the Fallen Kingdom comes in. We say we're going to just see how far this goes. Probably we're waiting until he went for a Pumpkin Witch to try to respond, but ultimately David does just go for a Witch of Quenched Fires, which makes sense. I mean, this does essentially make a lot of my spot removal a little bit less concerning, and does set up at least a strong board, especially that now we've seen Neferend Fairy Tail Dragon come down here, very clearly setting up to try to do some pretty nasty stuff here to protect this board and make it sure that my burn damage just doesn't ever do anything, which makes, you know, Little Red, when it gets healed, doesn't do much, or all kinds of other stuff. The moons don't shoot for any damage. It's a pretty helpful tool to be able to use in this case, plus also just shoving out all these blockers. In response to the cast, we start to go cast Godly Aura to try to burn the Fire Witch, and then we go, oh, wait a minute, that's exactly what I can't do because of how Fire Witch works. So we'll backtrack that here in just a second. We're like starting to do stuff, and they're like, oh, wait, yeah, no, that doesn't do anything. So what we're going to do instead, once this all resolves out, is we're going to go ahead and make another moon to get another... I'm like, yeah, wait a minute, what am I doing? That doesn't do anything. So we use this to try to make another moon, and then at the end of his turn, we'll make another moon, and then try to get another wolf back and go from there. Draw for turn. Before recovery. Down comes that Godly Aura. Makes us another moon, gonna get us another wolf. We see a Light Moonchild happen in response. We go in response to that. Let's go ahead and use Lars to heal up our Witch of the Fallen Kingdom, or our Little Red. Lars successfully heals. Now he has Spirit Ring, so he could tap his 2 rulers to make the will for the Viola to still be targeting the Godly Aura. Ultimately, though, does just choose to let it all resolve. So we're going to get the moon successfully into play. The wolf comes into play here, and he goes to use Persephone, and I let him here, but technically, again, a little bit of a misplay here. There's a Dark Alice on board. You can't remove cards in my graveyard from the game. I just completely missed that. But then also, like you'll see here in a moment, play as if I did successfully hit a 1-drop into the field, and you'll see what I mean here in just a second. I'm currently under Light Child, so I can't cast another card at this point, but that doesn't mean I can't use activate abilities. And so a beautiful card that has come out this set, especially with the fact that we're using 1-drops and 2-drops with Lars, is Tinkerbell. So we can just pay 1, activate, put Tinkerbell in, and just kind of clear the board that way using the enter effect of Tink, which is really, really nice. So we're just going to burn the board for try to destroy it. That'll bait out a never end activation to kind of keep things alive. We'll go in response. Second Tinkerbell. Does never end again in response to the second Tinkerbell, which makes a whole lot of sense. But again, this is what I'm saying is like playing as if the wolf had actually hit field, which is by drawing 4 cards. You have to have a 1-drop hit field to draw a card, to draw 2 cards. You have to have a 2-drop hit the field, which is Lars in this case, to destroy the board. And so weirdly enough, playing as if the wolf had successfully hit field, which because of the Dark Alice, it should have hit field, and so we should be good there, and we'll draw 4 cards. This is a little bit of a mess, and so please take this as a lesson of please monitor all of your continuous effects and learn and do better than I did. And when you have a playmat that says please use the chase, use it to build your interaction sequences. Good old me just kind of getting excited about using these new cards and trying to play a red deck, as you can see here. Welcome to Jeremy being bad at red decks, the game. So what we do here is before David draws on his turn, we're going to go ahead and remove a light card in my hand from the game to cast Spirits of the Crimson Moon. It's going to come into play and then immediately get RFG'd. It is going to let us pop one of his additions, which is great. We're going to grab the... just so I can keep being the aggressor here, we're going to go ahead and pop the... Road to the Secret Queen here, but it doesn't really matter because ultimately we're going to pop everything here because we do have a third Tinkerbell. That resonator, the Spirits is a resonator, so it comes into play as a 2-drop, immediately banishes itself, and then Tinkerbell sees it and then kills his entire board. So everything is absolutely dead, wiped off the field, and now we're staring down a pretty significant threatening board space for lethal this next turn. David kind of wondering how he's going to come back from here and draw for turn, getting a Persephone, 2 attack orders, a Persephone, and a Fiola. Does not a successful kind of comeback deck make against this board that is threatening lethal for him next turn. Currently, the Wolf itself is sitting at 10, the Dark Alice is 2, and then the Lars is 7. So sitting at 17 damage, putting him down to 5. And we also have a healed Little Red, which is just a big indicator here. So we do see a pass turn, which is good for me. Gonna go ahead and play another moon to burn him for 6. Swing in for 5. Swing in for 2. Swing in for 12 to attempt to perform lethal. We do see attack order come down. We say that is fine. Not gonna get stopped by that at all. All good. Not a moon addition on the top of the board, unfortunately. We do see another wolf in hand, so we can go like, hey, we got that. Let's go for this. Try to get our aggression in that way. Swing in. See another attack order burning through yet another one of his cards. Going to go ahead and use Judgment of Little Red. Little Red is going to target our Lars. That is okay. It doesn't kill Lars. We're swinging in for lethal with Little Red. Flash in the Fiola just to serve as a blocker. Those are going to trade. And then truly in the sense of like just make them run out of resources, we're going to try to awaken the contract here. He'll Persephone it back to my hand. We go, that's fine. awaken the contract again because it's back in my hand, recast it, and burn you to death with red eyes for 3,000 damage just off the enter effect. David's like, well, I've got a rogue spectator, and I'm like, that's fine, you lose your whole board and everything's good. And so that will take it for game 1, despite the sloppy execution for me and knowing what my cards do, and we move into game 2. Going into game 2, start the wall. Once again, we're being put on the coin, and we are okay with this. We're just going to go ahead and slam down a wolf and say, like, hey, we're going to do something. We're going to try to swing. We're just going to put the wolf out. It's just a good... The thing about wolf is, like, even as it sits as a 2/2, it's still a good threat, mainly because if you don't answer it, it gets big very quickly. If you do answer it, it potentially generates other free resources and then potentially comes back for free. So it just kind of keeps coming back. It serves a very, very heavy hitter purpose for this deck, which is very, very nice. Just going to see a Callstone pass for me at that point in time. Nothing really doing. Nothing really worth doing at that point. David looking at this hand, probably going to start dropping some stuff. Does decide to drop a Trishula here. Hits the Moonshade. And then we're going to go ahead and follow up with another daily research. Searching out that flower to keep stuff tapped down. See a pay 2 to go ahead and play the flower. To try to bounce the wolf, we go, well, in response, Dark Alice Rabbit Princess, to try to see if we can maybe draw in double wolf because we discarded one. Do see a Killua Fossil Girl here to try to pop the flower. He'll tap down the Dark Alice in response. And once again, completely forgetting the wolf trigger because it went from field to grave. So again, Jeremy doesn't know how to play aggro, so that's why we have commentary after the fact. When that wolf gets sacrificed by the Dark Alice, I should still get to trigger and see if I get a moon addition. If it had been a fire moon, I would have gotten both wolves back, and we would have been in business to be able to pop the wall, which is just something that's important to note. We're okay, though, because we have something in hand to try to work through this here. We're going to go ahead and go for a ascending the Crimson Moon. Non-awakened, we don't think this is going to resolve in terms of getting to contract. So ultimately we are just trying to be able to protect. We want this to resolve to get the wolves back, and so that's the biggest important part here. We do see 2 wolves get to come into play here because a fire moon entered the field. Now we get the enter effect to be able to discard a bunch of cards and make these wolves very, very large. Which point in time we see a Lorite trying to cancel that discard trigger. The question becomes, are we going to fight over that Lorite? say, nope, that is fine. You have successfully done that. We'll go ahead and use Little Red the Wolf Girl to shoot that Lorite out of the way. Attempt to move into combat. Out comes the Darkness Moonchild to pop that off the field. We do have one moon here. Really wanted to get that discard off. But we do have another Godly Aura, so we'll at least make another moon and draw a card. So now each of these wolves will be 600, and so then we can at least swing in with the wolves to pop the wall and get it off the place. And at that point in time, we pass the turn. Starting to mount the pressure here for David. The more things that stick on field, the harder it becomes for David to kind of keep up. Eventually, things are going to kind of snowball. Part 3. Once again, it has a decent field clear hand, a couple of Feastings, attack order, looks like a Persephone, looks like a Flashing Smile. Are going to see that Road to the Sacred Queen come down here. And then a pass. Once again, like I said, end of the turn is the best time for this deck to be interacting with stuff. We're going to see a Dark Alice, just to try to bait out the resources at the end of David's turn to be able to then go into my turn and pretty unopposed. A little bit of a missed opportunity there in terms of using the Dark Alice to fuel the discard of the moon already on field. We could potentially pump everyone up plus 400, but I think part of it is wanting to be able to attack even with the Dark Alice. So we go in, attempt to swing, we filter into white. We do see that Flashing Smile come down here. Gonna definitely clear the board because everything is, the biggest thing right now only has 600 defense. And there's certainly more cards than 2 in the hand. In response, we're gonna go ahead and use Child of the Light Moon here. This is mainly to see if we get something nice off the top with the 2 wolves. Unfortunately, though, we do not see a moon off the top, just a Godly Aura. And so, unfortunately, the Light Moonchild does not help here. We just let it get burned, or we don't end up using the resource at all. Going to see a Priscia's Big Show get cast here for David. First one of the match. To recovery. Do you see the Spirit Ring? Another one of those, very, very helpful. Ultimately, though, does throw down just a pass. Once again, we're going to toss down the Godly Aura here to try to make a moon, which is then going to try to hit the 2 wolves to shoot them back into play. Down comes the Persephone here to remove one of the wolves from the game, and we don't have a Dark Alice to protect it this time. Well, we do have a Tinkerbell who gets to come in here and draw us a couple cards because we had the wolf come into field, and then we'll just serve as a nice little 10/10 body with Drain. Down comes Light Palace, just to make the wolf a little bigger. Now sitting at being 1,000, 1,000 damage. Swinging in for 10. See if we can take David down to 28, or down to 18 this turn if it all goes well according to plan. David does decide to take the damage here. It's down to 28. We swing in for another 10. David seemingly takes that as well. Going down to attack order does not help against the Tinkerbell, because she's a 3-drop. Attack order only kills 2 drops and less. That point in time, putting him on a 1-turn clock, saying you got to start answering this stuff or you're going to die next turn. Do decide to play a Battle Wolf just to bank a lot of will here, moving into the next turn. See, a full dump of will into the Prisia at recovery. David setting up that Spirit Ring here, gets an addition off the board, does slam down also an Illusory Mermaid. This will also help here to try to get things clear in a sense of like making things harder for me to be able to swing, having to invest more of my will. The problem is the fact that I have that Battle Wolf. That's going to make a lot of will for us to be able to swing, and we are going to get to go ahead and throw in the Lars. David wondering if he's going to potentially respond to the Lars, healing the Little Red. Chooses not to, which is pretty great for us because if we can find another moon, Little Red can just Judgment and immediately kill that Illusory Mermaid, and we can swing in for a ton of damage and try to finish this game off. Do see a Call Stone. Tracking how much will we have here. Swinging in with the Wolf, choosing to pay 1 for the cost, the tax of it because of the Mermaid. Deciding exactly how David wants to handle this. If we can find a moon, if we can kind of bait out some stuff and find a moon at this point, it's going to be pretty good for us to be able to clear whatever blocker is left and really pressure David to close out this game. We do see a Big Show come down here, the Prisia, to try to grab he's cast, I think, Prisia at least 5 times at this point because of that, beginning of his turn, dump a bunch of will into it. Do have double feasting attack order in hand. We say the cast of the Prisia is fine. We could certainly use, we've already burned Light Moon Child. It would have been great to save it for this point because we would have been in a really good spot. You see down comes the Killua cancel in response to the enter effect. Do you see a feasting unless I can pay 3, which I certainly can. I have the stones for it. Willing to pay the tax. Down comes the second feasting. Now, once again, I can technically pay for this because I have a Battle Wolf, but I completely blank on the fact that Battle Wolf will produce me 3 will. I could just tap Battle Wolf, make 3 will, pay for it. No big deal. Instead, I let this Prisia resolve And it gets David a Garion, which is not good for me at all. The deck relies pretty heavily on 1-drops, although it does have things like, obviously, the Tinkerbell, like you've seen, and Lars and stuff to be able to help answer that as well. We're still swinging in for 8 with the Wolf. Blocks with the Garions. We lose the Wolf. The Wolf trigger gets us a Tinkerbell. This is good for us to know for later, because Tinkerbell gets us to a point where we might be able to blow up the Garion very effectively, which is great. Just need to find a 2-drop Resonator to cast as well. Thankfully, we have a nice little life point swing to be able to keep ourselves safe, at least for right now. Did draw into a Magic Stone Research Institute, which is a little terrifying. Keep in mind that currently on field right now, David does have Eternal for all of his stuff because of the Trishula. Magic Stone Research Institute comes down here, which is the exact thing we didn't want him to see yet because of what's in our hand. Anything other than Magic Stone Research Institute, and we would have been in just fine shape. But unfortunately, the Institute's going to be a pretty big problem. Go to use the light card for Magic Stone Research Institute with Spirits here. We start to target the Trishula, and then we go, oh, wait a minute, and we kind of talk about it for a little bit, and that's why you see that cut there. We are actually going to be targeting the Institute instead. David says, well, that's fine. Let's go ahead and just remove your graveyard. We'll do that. And I go, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So the Institute is gone. We get to certainly survive for one more turn, and now David has to kind of debate about, where he wants to swing, because he could kill the Tinkerbell, but it still gets me 1,000 life, which doesn't really help him, and there's all kinds of weirdness that's coming on here. David debating whether he wants to swing, and if he does want to swing, what at. If he just swings it by face with the Garion, the Lars can soak up the damage for me for at least one hit, which is nice. Does decide to swing in with the Garion. We take it. We go down to 35. Calling that stone, we know we now have that Tinkerbell in hand, which is nice because we can hard cast it if we need to. First, though, we're going to go ahead and play the Moon to pump everybody up, discarding one of the Tinkerbells, unfortunately, there just to draw 2 cards. This also pumps everybody up very nicely, although I'm out of wolves at this point. So everyone's getting currently plus 400. Casting Spirits of the Crimson Moon to go ahead and pop the Trishula so that stuff doesn't have Eternal and Pierce anymore. Judgments with Little Red, which we can use to pop the Illusory Mermaid. Get her off the field. Swing for 14. Just deciding where to block here. We do see that last attack order attempt to get cast, but it doesn't do anything instead. David Kuras, well, I've already showed you I have it, so let's go ahead and just kill the Little Red, the Wolf Girl. We'll block with the Priscia, so the Priscia's taken off the board, and I gain 14. Swing in for 9. David says, sure, I'll take it. Goes down to 9. And then attempt to swing in with the Wolf, because I have so much will left over. For 8. Blocks with the Feathsing. Up comes Gary. Down, we got Gary and Feathsing here. Top deck's a low right. That doesn't really help. Go ahead and cast another body in the form of Rogue Spectator, and we just pass the turn. The Garian saying, my top decks that are all 1-drops are not helpful. Just to pump everybody up again, we have another glorious little moon. We're discarding 1, so now everyone's getting +4 again because there's 2 of them. So we'll swing in for 14. Blocks with the Garian. We gain another 14. That's fine. Swing in with the Lars for attempted lethal. Blocks with the Rogue Spectator. That gets killed. Swing with the Spirits into the Garian. Blocks with the Feathsing. That kills that. Swing in to trade with the Garian. Flashes in the Lorite here. Blocks with the Lorite. And then at that point in time passes the turn. Seeing what the top deck is, just to see if there's any kind of comeback at this point in time, because committing the Garian, we see a Witch of Quenched Fires. Got sideboarded in to grab off of the Priscia. Did not help much here. Does serve as a second body, but with there being 3 bodies, it doesn't help. We could obviously commit, like even 3 bodies to 2 bodies, and with only 900 life, you could commit the Garian to kill the Lars. So then you can use the Witch of the Quenched Fire to block the 600, and then the 400 swings in, and you're pretty safe. If I can find any way to discard, then that's not great. Ultimately, though, probably best chance for David is just to leave stuff recovered. Ultimately, though, does decide to swing at the 600 attack spirits. At the end of turn, we do have a Tinkerbell, though. It's not going to get to blow up the board, but it is just going to serve as enough with only 1 blocker here. And so has to block the Tinkerbell because of life total, and then the other 2 can just swing in and do enough damage for lethal that way, too. So top decking the thing to get around the Garian just lets us rush down through and finish the game. So at that point in time, it's just a matter of walking through the motions. Swing for 10. Looking at life totals, I think in the moment we forgot to mark the pay 2 at the beginning of the game for that addition, so he thought he had down 11 left, but then at that point in time these 2 will swing in, which would make sense as to why you'll keep playing here even though I had exact lethal instead of leaving him at 2 life. So that is the game. Hope you guys like it despite all of our weird not keeping good track of the game state. Deck profiles of both lists will be up later this week, and until next time, this is GMO73 saying class dismissed.